this video, I'll teach you how to make faux glass pomegranate beads perfect for Christmas jewelry. And stay until the end because I'll share the key tips I learned while making this project, including what I would change if I were to make it again. Hello, dear polymer clay enthusiast. I'm Michaela from Learn Polymer Clay, and let's dive in. I'm working with Carmine Red Fimo polymer clay. I'm using this color only for Christmas projects. It wasn't easy to condition the clay. I had to add some Kato poly clay and put everything into a sealable bag and mix the clay together because it was very crumbly in the beginning. And so I mixed a certain amount of Carmine Red Fimo Professional Polymer Clay, and then I decided to mix part of the Carmine Red Polymer Clay with some gold metallic polymer clay, and in fact it's scrap clay from a previous project, and I'm mixing like a 1-to-1 ratio, and then I ended up with two sheets of polymer clay, one Carmine Red and one metallic red polymer clay. And then I'm going to use the Lietz Teardrop Skinner blend technique to make a beautiful blend, beautiful Skinner blend. So I've rolled the clay into the Carmine Red clay into a ball, and then I used the side of my palm to shape this ball into a teardrop. I did the same for the metallic red mix, and you'll notice that I'm working with a larger teardrop for the Carmine Red and a smaller one for the metallic red. Then I used my fingers to flatten the clay. I flattened it enough to be able to put it through the pasta machine on the largest setting. I'm using an Atlas motor pasta machine. It's a little bit noisy, but I like it. And so I put the clay through the pasta machine several times, changing the settings, going from the largest setting to the setting number 4. I went to the largest setting, to the setting number 1, then 2, then 3, ending with the setting number 4. And I've did my best to have one color on one side and the other color on the other side. And I folded the clay and I put it through the pasta machine. Next, I intend to use this gradient to make pomegranate beads. And so I'm going to draw a template. So I used a round cutter to make a round shape, and then I just drawn the bottom detail of the pomegranate. Then you'll just have to use scissors and cut out the template. Of course, if you prefer, you can just use a dotting tool and draw the pomegranate shape on top of the clay. I'm making 2 beads because initially I wanted to make earrings, but at some point one of the beads did not turn the way I expected it to turn, so I had to change. So I had to adapt the project. Of course, you can download a silhouette of a pomegranate from the internet and cut it out using scissors and use it to cut the shape of the beads if you prefer. You can see a gradient. It is not a very visible one, but still you can see a gradient. And then I just gently press the template into the clay, and I've used the craft knife to cut out the shape of the beads. Next, I'm going to use a beautiful Silkscreen because I want to make these beads very festive looking, so I intend to use mica powders. And in fact, I'm going to use a Silkscreen with a very intricate floral pattern because I want to make these beads very festive. We are making Christmas inspired jewelry. So I want to have part of the pomegranate silkscreened with gold mica powder, and I'm using Fimo gold mica powder, but I want the bottom to be very simple and Carmine. And in order to silkscreen your beads, you just have to gently press the silkscreen into the polymer clay, and then I've just used my fingers and gold Fimo gold mica powder, and I gently spread the mica powder on top of the stencil, and then I've just lifted the paper element, and now you can see that we have a part of the pomegranate which is not colored with this pattern. And I thought the beads would be more interesting like this. Because we use the craft knife to cut out the template, you will have to take the time and smooth off the edges, and you will also have to take care of the bottom part of the pomegranate and smooth off those areas as well. I wasn't really happy about the margins, and I still felt that these beads were a little bit too large, so I decided to use a round cutter and trim off more clay in some areas. And then I'm going to use an interesting kidney shaped cutter to cut out an opening in the middle of the bead, and you'll see later how I used this opening to add even more interest to the finished beads. And you'll have to smooth off the areas of these negative spaces as well. Use your smoothing tools and smooth off the exterior, the margins, the exterior margins of the beads, but also this the contour of these cutout elements. And then when you are happy with the look of your pieces, you can bake them for 45 minutes in the preheated oven. I tint my pieces with aluminum foil to protect them from direct heat. And then I prepared some 4mm Siam Czech fire polished Czech beads. For applying resin, I noticed that I had to do some sanding, so I sanded the margins of the beads, and then I put the beads on top of resin tape, and I used a brush to apply UV resin, and I'm applying UV resin on top of the bead, but also in the negative space on top of the resin tape. And initially I prepared a little bit of resin, so I had to prepare more resin, because you will need a little bit of resin to put on top of the bead, and also to put inside the cutout area on top of the resin tape. I'm very careful to spread the resin and make sure that there are no gaps, no areas with no resin on top of the bead. And I've applied a generous amount of resin in the negative space as well on top of the tape. And then using tweezers, I started to put the beads, the 4mm Siam fire polished Czech beads, inside the pomegranate, like seeds, like pomegranate seeds. And I'm using a silicone tool to spread them and arrange them inside the pomegranate. And I'm going to put a certain amount of beads, but I'm not going to cover the entire negative space. I do want to have an opening and a see-through opening, but if you prefer, you could add the beads and cover the entire negative space if you think your beads would be even more interesting like this. And then I used my high power UV lamp, and I cured the beads for 3 minutes. And because I wanted to have a beautiful faux glass look, And you'll notice that I did not texture the back of these beads. I did not texture the back because I had the intention from the beginning to use resin on the back as well. So I applied a coat of UV resin on the back of the beads, and also on top of the negative space filled with resin and the beads. And I did this because I think that you can wear these beads on either side, so they are two-sided beads. You can wear them with the intricate pattern, or you can flip them as you like. Then I've cured the resin again for 3 consecutive minutes. So I decided to use a gold color chrome marker, chrome pen, and color the margin. And I'm doing my best not to color the resin on top or on the back. And because I was holding the piece in between my fingers, and in fact, because I put my fingers on the front and on the back of the bead, which is not a good idea, and because while coloring the margin, I ended up with gold paint on my fingers. When I finished decorating the margin of one of the bead pieces, I've noticed that by putting my hand with the gold acrylic paint on top, I kind of destroyed the bead. So I had to use the marker and draw a pattern. But this was not my initial intention, but I had to do something to undo the damage I did to the beads. And then I've used my hand drilling tool, and I've poked a hole, and while drilling a hole into the bead, I noticed that I introduced air inside the bead, and I've noticed like an air pocket appearing on the back of the bead, and even on the front a little bit. The resin turned a little bit cloudy, and I was very disappointed by this because I really like this bead a lot. So for the second bead that I am going to use to make the neck piece, I decided to use a strong jewelry glue, and glue a bail, a metallic bail, so I won't have to poke the hole and introduce air again and destroy the second bead. Please let me know if this happened to you. This is not the first time that's happening, and I don't know if it's because of the high humidity, or if the hand drilling element, or if the drilling element was too thick. Do you have solutions for these kind of situations? And then I decided to use wire, and I'm using 20 gauge gold color wire. I decided to make beautiful joyful dangle elements using wire and the fire polished beads. So I used the tip of the round nose pliers to make a loop, and then I put this loop between the jaws of my round nose pliers, and I continued turning and turning until I had a larger loop, the beginning of a spiral. And then I straightened the wire, and I put 3 Siam beads on top of the wire, and then I used the round nose pliers again to make a loop, and I inserted a hexagon element inside the loop, and then I used round nose pliers to keep this loop in place, while I used my hand to wrap the wire 3 times around the base element. And on the other side of the hexagon element, I'm going to attach a jump ring, and then I'm going to insert these elements on a metal on a beautiful metal wire neck piece, which is very elegant and perfect for Christmas festive neck pieces. And initially, when I tried these elements with the pomegranate bead, I've noticed that they kind of they sit on top of each other. So I needed to find a solution to space these elements a little bit, and I decided to use a wire mandrel and just wrap the wire to make like a spring with wire. And then I used flash cutters to cut this spring in half, and then I've inserted it on the metal wire frame that I'm using to make the neck piece. And so I used these kind of springs, handmade springs to space out these elements, and I think they add a little bit more interest to the finished neck piece, and they give this neck piece an interesting festive look, perfect for a Christmas attire. And here's what I would change about this project in my intention to make it even better. I've noticed that when coloring the margins with the chrome gold marker, I've colored the resin in some areas, and then when I tried to use baby wipes to wipe the color off, it did not work pretty well. So I think it's better after baking the pieces, of course, to sand them if you need to sand the margins, and then use a chrome gold marker and color the pieces, let the paint dry, and then apply resin. And in case you notice that you have colored the front of the bead or the back, or you can use sanding paper and or a sanding file, and quickly sand off. Thank you for watching the tutorial. If you like this idea, here's what to watch next.